Welcome you all to the Mobile Application Development lecture series. This is our fourth lecture. Today we'll be discussing about understanding mobile information design. Let's get started. In the previous class, we had discussed exclusively about the users of mobile applications. What all things we had discussed about it? We have spoken about the usability, accessibility, the UI principles and various stuffs. Before getting started today about the design aspects of the mobile application development, we shall recall the previous class mobile application users first. What are the important things we looked into it? Once we recall everything, then we will be easy to understand the real aspect of design. What is the main purpose of the design? So today's information design, what we'll be discussing about is how exactly what are the aspects we should consider while designing a mobile application. Okay, so let's get started with the understanding of mobile users and then we go to the mobile information design. To recall in the previous class we had discussed about the UI principles, which we call it as gestalt principles. There are 5 principles of proximity, closure, continuity, figure and ground and similarity. Exclusively we discussed about all the 4 important aspects while considering the UI interface, because we should see that how exactly an user can pursue the information from the screen. When we are designing it, what all things we should consider, what are the gestures, what exactly we'll be looking into it, what makes sense, should be the background, what should be the foreground, how to make him concentrate on a particular thing. All these things are the principles of the UI principles. This we discussed exclusively in the previous class. In the next, what we discussed, the social aspect of the mobile, which means how do we market it? How do we make the applications reach to everyone? These are the part of the users. How do we reach out to the users? How do we market it? So that is it good to go with the mouth to mouth, or shall we make use of the social media? Shall we make use of the advertisements? So the various aspects of reaching out to the users we discussed in the previous class. It is also part of the mobile application users. Then we discussed about the usability. How do we retrieve and reaching out the target audience? What are the importance? How do we reach out to the important audience? Who are all the users of our application? For whom we are developing it? Then what are the gestures? In fact, even the differently abled people can also make use of this application. And what are the different gestures we'll be using it? We'll be swiping, we'll be tapping, we'll be long press, we'll be doing all these things, all the gestures which will be used on a smartphone. So this is how we are gonna, mobile gets used with this is how the user will be using the mobiles. Then in case of any problems, corrections or errors when on the screen, this also how do we correct it, what are the measures, what are the aspects we should consider during UI design, all these things we discussed. Then the last we discussed was the accessibility. In the accessibility, we mainly meant to guidelines for general mobile experience. We looked into the navigation and the links. How do we make them use different navigation links? Then we spoke about the page layout and the content, how the page should be designed, the activity should be designed. Then the page definition, where what should have, every page, every activity should have its own definition. Then we spoke about the different user inputs which should come while using a mobile. So with this, which means in the previous class we exclusively discussed about the mobile users, mobile application users. In the today's class, what we'll be giving more importance is for mobile information design. What is the information? It's information which is a purified form of a data, a raw data which is converted into the information. So in today's aspect, what all the aspects we should consider while designing an mobile application? How do you give the information what we want to convey? If an railways application is considered, the main purpose of the railways application the user will be looking into it is what are the different trains of arrival and how do we reserve tickets, These are the aspects which he'll be looking at it. So this information we need to give him. So this is, how do we give him? Is it just in the way of normally every data coupled, or shall we give it in a proper way of in a menu wise or list wise, in a search way? These things we should consider while designing the mobile application. There are different ways of conveying the information. If you are looking into the bank statement, you want day-to-day transactions in a listed way. You don't want it to be in a documented way where everything in a paragraphed way. So these design issues and aspects are the ones which we'll be discussing today. So what all things we'll be doing today? We'll be seeing how the information can be displayed, which are the different ways of displaying the information, then which are the design patterns which we can use while designing an application. There are many different design patterns. How do we navigate? How do we show the advertisements? How do we show our power of the mobile? How do we show the connections? These things we'll be showing. Then how do we give the intervening screens? We'll be looking into the content and controls. We'll be looking into the advertising. We'll be looking into the content structure and usage. All these are the different aspects we'll be looking into it. So the first to get started is information display. For any aspect, there are many ways we display the information. Let's consider a simple calculator, a small calculator on the hand. We display the numbers which tells you this is how the calculations happen. So these display units are available even on the refrigerators, on AC, on washing machines, or on stock market display, or advertisement displays which you'll be seeing it. Main purpose of the display units are to show the required information. If you go to a jewelry shop, he'll be displaying today's gold price or the silver price. It is just an information display unit where you are getting the required information. When you go to the jewelry shop, you want to know what is the today's current value of the gold. So that is how you display it in a small display unit. That's the information that's all you wanted it. You don't want anything else over there. But in the same way, when you're using a mobile, you want to display many information into it. It could be the stock information which you are looking into the stock market, or it could be the bank statement you are looking into transactions, or you want to make a transaction. So these are all the displays which we will be showing it up on the display unit. So with this, let's go through the few of the navigations which we can have. Which means what exactly we are seeing the navigations here is, there are different ways or the screens which we can display, or different parts of our screens which can be used to convey a few things. Say there is an indicator panel, there is a fixed menu, there is an expandable menu, there is a scroll, there is a notifications and feedback. We'll be wondering what all these things, do we have it in our mobile? Yes, of course we have it. So let's see one by one what exactly is an indicator panel is, which we are very comfortable, but we never observed. The name given for that is, if you are observed in the top of your mobile screen, we have something which is related to the operating system, that is Android or iOS, where it displays you many information in small icons. It could be the power, what is your power, battery power. It could display you the timing. It could display you the network availability, how many SIMs are activated, what are the connections you are holding it, are you connected to the Wi-Fi. In a simple small panel, you could observe all the information. So in this panel, you will be seeing all those informations, which we call it as an indicator panel, which will be mainly used by the OS of the mobile, which displays you the operating system information, which is running at the back end. Even if you switch on the flash, it will come up a small icon. If you switch on your Bluetooth, a small icon comes up. That panel, we call it as an indicator panel. So this is a very important information which is getting shared to the user. So this is also part of the design. When you are developing a mobile application, everything should come below this annunciator panel. Nothing should be displayed above. It should not cover that annunciator panel, which is very much required across all the applications, which is we call it as annunciator panel. The next display which we can see is the fixed menu display, which are all fixed. You cannot expand, you cannot zoom, you cannot do that. So this information called fixed menu informations, which are say if you are observing it, when you open your mobile, you get a date and time, which is a fixed. Your wallpaper is fixed. So many of the information you are opening your application, few things are fixed. You cannot change it, which is static by nature, which cannot be changed. So these things, in this way also you can convey certain information which you do not want it to be changed or moved or taken away from anywhere else. So if you want to convey certain information of this nature, say certain buttons has to be displayed at the bottom or at the top, which should not change. In those cases, we should consider the display which we call it as fixed menu displays. It all depends on the requirements of one of the developers. If he feels that I want to fix certain information which should not be changed, then you should, the one he is using it, we call it as fixed menu. The next other one is, which we call it as expandable menu, which you will be regularly using it. So because why do we need this? Nowadays, if you open a bank application, you have many information. You will be doing what all the functionalities will be doing it. What are the features it will operate. It will give you the profile. It will give you the existing summary of your bank statement. It gives you how to transfer. You can raise a request, hey, help. You can raise, add beneficiaries. There are many features out of it. But we cannot fix everything in a small screen of our mobile. So what we do is we make use of a menu. In the menu, what happens is you can show only the headers out of all the items you want to it. When you go, you can expand. If you are considering in this example news, what are the news, different news? You want a world news, you want a sports news, you want a business news, you want a local news. So further 4 more options can expand. So if you want to you make use of more information, you can go for an expandable menu. So even it all depends on the user, the developer, what is, how much information has, how much organized you can keep it. So it is mainly takes you the hierarchical, the tree hierarchical structure where you can very clearly organize the data. So the overall our UI design is all about, the design aspect is more towards the hierarchical structure, how we can organize the data, how we can organize and share the information to the users. The next other one is the scroll, which we do it because nowadays if you open a bank statement, you could observe it, there is a huge transactions which has happened in the last 1 month. It could be 1000. You cannot display it in a small 5.5-inch screen. You need a scrollable kind of a menu where it can easily, on going through the scrolls, it can go on scrolling it. So this is another way of displaying the information. All about is an information, how better, how reliable, how you can display it where a user can perceive it. So this is how what we are looking into it. The other aspect says notifications and feedback. Of course, notifications and feedbacks. Well, consider you are working on, you are playing a music. Now you are waiting for a mail notification to come up. All is nowadays. I'll give a very good simple example, which is getting distracted a lot. Our students will be, during the exams, they'll be concentrating on studying. They'll be reading, okay, tomorrow I have exams, let me read it. They'll be going through the one page. Suddenly they have kept all their mobiles beside with them and there is some annoying noise of ton. What does it mean? There is a message, that too a WhatsApp message. Do you think a student will continue reading it or will they look into the message? Yes, they will be definitely looking to the message because it's always interesting. They are looking for what, who did it, who is expecting the information, who, what. So how did they get to know about there is something which has come, which we call it as notification, which is really annoying for many times. Nowadays we get do not disturb calls, which is nothing but a notification where they keep calling you. You want to lend money, they are ready to give you money, but it is very much annoying. Likewise, for students, WhatsApp notifications or Instagram or Facebook notifications are always annoying. But there are right ways of using it. Consider you are doing a very important transaction in the mobile and you want an OTP to be received through a message. At that point of time, there should be a notification telling that one message received. That's a real importance of the notifications. There are merits and demerits of the notifications. But as a mobile design, we should provide an information in such a way that it should be accessed. You want it to be notified, then it is always good. And especially for the stock market brokers or the one who is participating, he wants a real-time information of the news. What is happening? What is the crude oil price? What is the US dollar? What is rupee doing it? Whether this particular Infosys share got hiked or not? This notification, there is a result coming out of RBI. In these aspects, definitely the stock market applications require to give you the notifications. So there is always importance for notifications, and you can always give even the feedbacks as well. When you complete a ride in Rapido or a Ola, they ask you to give a feedback so that if there is, they can improve it. Even these things can also be part of your display screen, where in a certain border time you can rate the application. You can give the application feedback or ratings we can give to that. So this is with respect to notifications and feedback. The other parts of the next one which we will look into the design aspects are content and controls. What all the contents and how do we control it? So there are many different input mechanisms. If you want to give an input to the mobile applications, it could be a text, it could be a voice. There are different ways we can give, or through gestures. We can give different ways of, we can communicate the inputs in different ways. And other aspects which you see is how do we control? There is a standard control systems which will be working it. There is certain custom graphics or textures on controls. Certain, if you consider you are very new to the application, you don't know a particular icon what exactly it means. If you mouse over onto that application, it will tell you, okay, this is with a small texture. It is going to give you the information telling that this icon is all about this information. So it's ultimately the information is what happens. If you are very new to the particular icon, you should get to know what exactly this information all about. What is this icon about? In a small graphical texture way, or you can provide it. It mostly happens when there is a new releases coming out of your OS or applications, and the new controls they have added it, and we don't know. Very simple example I will give you that when the initial phases of the WhatsApp, there was no status. There was no call also, and there was no pay, WhatsApp pay. But nowadays, if you observe it over the last 5 years, you could have observed gradually they gave you the status, they gave you the calls, they gave you the WhatsApp pay. These are the new controls which they introduce, and a user wants to know what do you mean by status. Status is all about, it's a 24-hour display where you can update what did you do, what you're going to do in next 24 hours, and then it will vanish. So initially no one will get to know what you mean by status. So later when it showed you in the first usage telling this is the information about that status icon, then everyone got to know. So these informations are very important with respect to the controls or the contents. And we should always look into the minimal data entry aspects. Very important aspect of a user design or the information design is how well we can customize and control the more input. No one wants to give more of the inputs. No one wants to keep on typing it. Everyone wants to get the more information. The best application is the one which has less number of clicks, less number of user input. One of the best applications developed are by the Googles. They always tend to develop applications in simplest way. Less number of clicks, less number of user interaction. More the information you share and the less you take it, that's the best way to design an application. So minimum data entry should be supported. And nowadays you could observe, very simple example I'll give you. Whenever you're registering, opening a new application, or you're trying to register or trying to access a particular information content in a website, say LinkedIn, or you want to download some material from the PDF on the net, they ask you to register first. Who will go on typing your name, your age, your date of birth, email ID, password? No one wants to do that. What do the other options they give is, do you want to sign up using Google or Facebook or Microsoft existing accounts? So these options supports, which means you are minimizing the entry. You are giving very less number of input, and you are utilizing the already existing accounts so that they can be tracked, and you know exactly who is doing, because the complete account information is shared, already given in a Google account. It is shared with the LinkedIn or the SlideShare. They'll get the information which minimizes the number of input. So this is one of the best way to minimize the entry. So let's continue our discussion with the other aspects of content and controls. As I was telling, this is nothing but reveal content, which means whenever you want a particular entry to be made, how good you are, when you are doing a bank transaction, you need to enter the account. You need to select which account you want to transfer, and you should type in the amount, which is very much required, or else you lose huge amount of money. In those aspects, you should exclusively, the information has to be displayed telling you that you have to enter this information. Say example, you want to, when you are performing an action or a transaction, it will send you an OTP to your mobile. It will ask you, enter the OTP. Even though you have thousands of information, you are expecting the right thing is showing the OTP to be entered on top of it. The time you enter the OTP, it accepts it. But if you hide the OTP text box in somewhere, and if you make the user to search for it, then that's not a good design. You should not make a user to search the information. You should always make sure the continuity principle to be used. Okay, after this, he is looking for this information, let me show. This is called intelligent programming. Nowadays, what we learn in artificial intelligence or big data analysis, which they do it in our Amazon or Flipkart applications, where they tend to consider what all things this user might buy. Consider looking at your history and looking at others' history. If you are buying a book online, they'll definitely suggest you to buy a pen, telling that others bought it and you should also try it. If you have watched a movie in a YouTube, similar video will also be displaying to you related movies again, which will make you interested to see it. So this is what intelligent coding, intelligent aspect of designing the information. So even here as well, they are asking for an email ID to be entered. That's the information. You cannot keep it somewhere hidden and make him search. Unless you enter, you are not going to the next stage. So it is good, what the information you are looking into it, you should pop up and should say what exactly. And it should be in such a way that if you have 100 information to be entered, and if there is some error, then you should always highlight where exactly the error is. That's the right way of showing the information. Even the error detection has to be in the right way, or else user will keep on searching and he'll fed up and he'll go away. So what you are showing should be interested, and it is the required thing. It should be conveyed very simpler words. So this what is nothing but revealing a content, what you want to reveal. So that is the information. The other aspect is Intervening screens, the home and splash screen. Look, what do you mean by home and splash screen? The loading screen. I'll give you a very good example. If you're playing a lot of games, then you'll be very much interested to see that. When you consider the latest wonders of the games, the PUBG, if you are playing it, it's a huge game actually. In fact, it's almost a 100 MB game. When you are loaded, it will make use of minimum of 550 MB of your memory of your Android phone. At that point of time, whenever it is loading, it shows you either the PUBG home screen telling that it is getting opened, which means this is called as intervening screen. You are performing a task, and if it is taking some time, then you should not keep the screen idle. The time the screen is idle and no mouse buttons are working, then a user will get panic. Definitely everyone gets panic. But if you are conveying that wait, or something is happening at the background, then user feels yes, there is something happening, I should wait. Waiting and updating gives you the very good information for the user. Especially in terms of transactions, if you consider if you are paying a bill, you opened the electricity company and you try to pay it, it will take you to the billing desk, from there third party to the banking. Once you make a payment, while coming back, the connection got disconnected. You'll be what happened to your money? Is it safe? Yes, this is what worries. So during that time, if it shows you that it is processing, wait please, do not refresh, then you will feel that, oh, there is something happening at the back end. So which is we call it as intervening screens, because many times unknowingly many things happen without our control. Could be network down, there should be disconnection at the server end, it should reconnect. At that point of time, these screens should come up and tell that, oh, something is happening. So I'll give you a very simple example for that. I'm not sure how good it is visible, but this we can call it as a home screen. There is something you're trying to load an application, it will take 5 seconds. During 5 seconds, you cannot wait. You cannot make a user wait for 5 seconds and doing many things, nothing is happening. At that point of time, we can call it as it's loading. If you show a home screen, so it will give you the information that this application getting loaded, please wait. So this is how you intervene when you are doing something at the back end. So we call it as intervening screen. One of the simplest example is home and splash screen. We call it as during the opening of your application, the splash screen will come and give it a good image and it is telling you it's getting loaded onto the RAM. The other screen which you call as updating, which is very fond of using this kind of updation information, where if you are observing it, you are watching a movie on your mobile, or you're downloading video from the YouTube, then it will show you the progress bar. It is telling 90% downloaded, 95%, 99%, 100%. If you are giving that information, user feels that it is doing some updation is happening. If even when you are installing an application, then also it tells you it is installing, it is downloading. During that point of time, we are making use of the progress bars or the updating, the loading screen which we call it as. These are different, every information is required. How do you convey the information onto the user? This is very important. So this is the aspect which you are looking into it. The other part is the advertising, which is very important nowadays. You should always allow some space for the advertisers also, or else how do they bill? How do they generate money? Say, a PUBG game, if you do not advertise there, how do they generate money? YouTube, how do they generate money if you cannot advertise? Or else in a newspaper, on online e-newspaper, there are a lot of advertisements happening. But users are very less to pay the money and get the information. It's a common tendency in India that get everything free of cost. If you want to pay, no, do not go to that site at all. No one wants to go log into the site which wants money. You want to listen to the music? Free of cost, enjoy. So if this is how it is happening, so even the developers have gone the other way around. Hey, you want information? Get it. YouTube is doing very tactfully. They'll start playing you some big movie, in between they'll give the advertisements. If you are reading a newspaper, then consider this is a newspaper, you're giving header, then you'll be seeing some advertisements here and here. So that is how they can generate money. If they're giving you the free of cost live information, how do they get money? Everyone wants free of cost. But there are people who wants to advertise their product, the new releases or a new product release, a new website which is coming in, they'll pay to them. They'll pay to them. All we have to do is, you have to just bear the advertisements. If you bear the advertisements, you get the information free of cost on an e-newspaper. So there should be some space to advertise as well, which is the right space. If you are conveying an information, you want to advertise, whether you want to advertise in between, you want to advertise at the side, you can always provide the space. It's the right way to do the advertisements. You cannot give a complete page of advertisements, which feels very bad for the user. So you should give some small space. The last topic which we'll be discussing is the content structure and the usage. How should be the content structure and how we have to use it? What exactly we are trying here is, what you want to convey, it should be in a simpler way, in a good font and with a plain language. You should be straight to convey what you want to convey. Let's see what exactly you mean by information architecture. Information architecture should be, you should organize the data in a way, such a way that it is easily conveyed, it is easily conceived by the user. Say example, it's good to use a tree hierarchical structure while you are searching for some information. You want to search a particular book, then you should show in a particular website of a book website, in a publisher website, you want to search a particular book, then you should go, my area of interest is computer science, inside that artificial intelligence, inside that a particular book. So if you organize the data in a tree way or a organized way, structural way, that will be easy to conceive by the user. The other way is the label the data. Whatever the data you are giving it, you label it accordingly. Well, this is the information all about it. The last one is you get data identified. Very important aspect is whatever you want to convey, it should be identified by the user. So then we call it as, this is a real architecture of the information. The basic, the crux of information is organize, label and get identified. If you achieve this, then the information is conceived or projected in the right way and it will reach out to the every end user. So other part of conveying is fonts make real big sense. Typography. So if you are using a wrong fonts, it is not that attractive. It should be very pleasant. Certain information should be placed in a certain header should be bolded. Content, if you want to give, it should be some verbs or proverbs should be quoted, italic style. So even those are very catchy, especially when you are reading out the books on online books. When you are reading out the online books, at that point of time, you should convey them, what are the headers, which are the subheaders, what fonts, what is the bold and which are the proverbs. So that user will be automatically attracted towards those differently fonts and you will be rightly conveying what you want to convey. So fonts make a big impact on the user's mind, on the end user's mind. The other part is the language which you use. On a mobile, you cannot explain the whole history out of it. It is as simple as that. In a newspaper, reading out the headlines. The headlines are very short in nature. They'll be conveying PM released a book. Very simple. Which book and all, it will be inside. But in the same way, when you are conveying the information on your mobile, you should make sure that it is very in plain and simple and small. You cannot convey the complete sentence, it should be a small sentence, easily conveyable. If the information is easily conveyable in a shortcut way, then it is a real way of doing it. You consider you're reading out a big story. If you write it in a small 4 words, the whole thing will be, I'll give you a very simple example. In the childhood days, we used to tell, what is Ramayana? Ramayana is nothing but Rama killed Ravana. That's which means it tells the complete story of the Ramayana. So these are all the tags, simple plain language which we have to use to reach out to the end users, and it will give the right information about the product. So using the language, the plain language is very important. So what exactly it tells you? You should omit unnecessary words. Use simple forms of the verbs. Use short, simple words. Use pronouns. These are all the way how you, if you convey these things in your application, when you design, if you consider all these aspects, when you design your application, the text what you want to use it, the sentences what you want to use, then it will be rightly giving the right information to the user. So with this, we are going to coming to the end of the session, where we shall recall again what all things we discussed in today's information design class. So in today's class, we discussed about how the mobile information is designed. The information, we gave a lot of information, meaning importance today for the information design. So what is the how are you going to display the information with various devices which are there? When the refrigerator to the washing machine has a display unit, you are given the right information. Then we looked into the design patterns. What are the various ways of design patterns, from the navigation where you can scroll, expand, fixed menu, such kind of a thing. Then we discussed about content and controls, different way of conveying the contents, what are the different controls. Then we looked into the intervening screens, which is the updating screens, the progress bar screens, or the splash screens, which we looked into it. Then we looked into the advertising, very important. In the information display, we should give a way to advertise the products, the space for the advertising, which is the right space, which is getting attracted. So this also we discussed. At the end, we discussed about content structure and usage. Content structure with respect to the typography, the plain English which we have to, and organize, label and identify the data. So with this, we are going to end today's session on understanding mobile information design. Thank you all. So let's go to the next session, the next class, the lecture 5 will be continuing our introduction to mobile application technology, development, sorry. Thank you.